So we will go ahead and get started with the application for the targeted business tax credit. The legislation calls this a community investment project, and so we'll tell you more about what that is. It's basically just a definition of a business being ready to grow, but we'll go through that and so everybody understands. So it's important to know that these projects have to be done within an enterprise zone area with in counties that have populations less than 25,000. The Governor's Office of Economic Development, we can award up to $300,000 of allocation caps each year, with no more than $100,000 being allocated to one project.
And can we see your screen?
Oh, yes.
I can see your screen.
Thank you. Let me turn that on. Okay, now can we see the screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks, James. Okay, so this up here just tells a little bit about what the program does, what it is. Its purpose is to encourage private investment and the creation of jobs in rural counties with populations less than 25,000. And so what we did to make it a little bit easier and self-guided, first of all, we did some calendar items. So these applications are due at 5 p.m. on June 1. So, and they're online applications. On July 1, our office will notify eligible applicants if they've received an allocation cap for their projects. And then there'll also be a description of what they have to have completed in order to apply for that refundable tax credit. Each year, at the end of the year, the businesses are going to need to do end-of-year reports. Hopefully, we'll keep these very simplified. We just want to make sure people are on track, because if people are given an allocation cap this summer in 2017, their projects need to be completed by 2018 in order to get that tax credit. And then we've gone through and given definition of terms. What does it mean to be a qualifying business entity? So basically you need to be within an enterprise zone, and you can look that up. And you need to be residing in the business needs to be residing, and the project needs to be residing in counties that are less than 25,000. And there are also some employment. This employment thing, again, if you have issues with things like this is a legislative requirement. It says that businesses have to have at least 51% of their employees currently employed at the business entity's facility, which is located in an enterprise zone. Those employees have to be residents of the county in which the enterprise zone is located, or in an enterprise zone in a contiguous county. You know, examples of that might be Carbon and Emory. They do a lot together, and some of their businesses will get employees from both counties, and that happens in different places around the state. Okay, a community impact project is a project that a business applicant is proposing that includes significant capital investment and significant new employees. Enterprise zone area, does everybody know what an enterprise zone is? Just quickly, let's just hop on locate.utah.gov. For anyone who hasn't done this, all you have to do is put in an address. And then you come down here under workforce and check enterprise zones, and then do a search. And what you're looking for, it's still thinking here, but you're looking for this red shading. Okay, and I'm not quite sure why that's not jumping up, but I did look it up earlier, and this address that I looked up is in Millard County. And so you can see right at the county lines how Millard County has quite a bit of red shading, except for areas that are like cities, people and tribes have to do their own enterprise zone. So anyway, if somebody had some property there and they wanted to see if, or a business, they could see whether or not they qualify. Okay, and then it just goes through other definitions, like what capital investment, what a new employee means, what high-paying jobs mean, full-time means 30 hours per week, year-round. Seasonal positions are not full-time. It's not to say that leisure and hospitality can't participate. They can. They would just need, they need to have employees that work at least 30 hours a week year-round. Let's see, allocation cap means the amount of taxes that you might be able to go after. Refundable is a tax credit, meaning on the enterprise zone, in order to take the tax credit for an enterprise zone, you have to owe the state money, and with a refundable tax credit, you don't. The reason why this is important in these small counties is sometimes when you invest in something in a smaller county, it takes you longer to see a return on that investment. And so with an enterprise zone, if you use that tax credit, you may not actually owe state taxes for the 3 years that you'd be eligible to take that tax credit, where with this refundable tax credit, you don't have to owe the state any money. You just get, if you comply with all the requirements, you can just get a tax credit and have the state tax commission send you a check, which is kind of nice. Okay, I'm going to go to the next page. And if you've got questions, Jaron Jansen does the online work for the application. and I'd be happy to help anybody with questions about the program. Okay, on the next page, we just go through this eligibility quiz, and what this is doing is it's avoiding a pre-application, and it just helps people know whether or not they would be eligible. So instead of a business going through the whole full application, they can take a few questions on this page and find out whether or not they should go ahead with a full application. So first of all, you have to find out whether or not you're physically located in an enterprise zone area, and we just looked one up, and so I'll say yes. Then they want to know if 51% of your employees reside in the county or in an adjacent county, and I'll say yes. They want to know if your project, whatever growth or you're planning on investing in, will that be located within an enterprise zone? And you can interrupt me at any time, you guys. I'm just going to go through this unless people have questions. Are there any questions so far, or should I just keep going? Okay, I'll just keep going. Does your project include significant capital investment and significant new employment or other factors that create a positive economic impact to the enterprise zone area? This is what, if there are enough applications to create a competitive environment, which is what we hope will happen, these are the factors that will be weighted. So we just want everyone to know up front what we're going to be weighting these applications on. And then it gives you reminds you of what the definition of capital investment and new employment is. Okay, they want to know, you have to ask, will your project be completed by December 31, 2018? So if it's somebody who's just kind of dreaming about something, they don't own the property yet, they're just starting to think about something, they can go ahead and fill out an application and look at it so they know what to expect for another cycle next year. but we want the ones that are ready to do it now to be the ones that apply this year. And then, have you talked to the local economic development director or elected official over economic development? Because they will have to upload a letter of support. And then the other thing is too is by statute it says that you can't do enterprise zone tax credits and targeted business tax credits. You can't claim them in the same year. So this is just asking if you're aware. So if you've answered yes to all these things, you may be ready to move on to the full application. And it just reminds you that just because you are eligible all the way through this process, that it doesn't guarantee that you'll receive a refundable tax credit allocation cap for GOED. The number of applications we receive may outnumber our capacity to fund all the great community impact projects around the state. And if anyone has questions, again, I'd be happy to visit with people. So in this part, you're just putting in your business name information, and I probably could have come up with a better name, but how many years you've been in business. You put your NAICS code here, and here's a link to the NAICS code. If you don't know what your NAICS code is, I'm just going to assume I'm something in agriculture.
Can I ask a question here really fast? This is Cindy with iCore Technologies in Morgan.
Okay.
We're kind of a specialty trade business. The state of Utah does not make us have a contractor's license. They actually make us have a water well drilling license, even though that's not what we do. We survey and install cathodic protection. But my NAICS code, if you look it up through NAICS, if you go cathodic protection in there, it gives you a code that says electrical contractor / cathodic protection. So I'm wondering if does that disqualify me?
So
you can keep going if you want to go, and don't mess up this meeting, but I just need that answer.
Would you do me that's a good question, and it would be good to resolve that before you go through the application. Have you noticed my email on those screens?
No, but I'll find it. Go ahead.
Okay, it's L Gilmore, LGILLMOR at utahspelledout.gov. Let's work that out so that you know. I appreciate having you attending this session. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, and then how many current employees do you have? So you need to put what would be on your DWS filings, for example, because at some point, in order to get your tax credit certificate, you're going to need to show that you have hired the jobs that your application says that you will hire. So let's just say that you currently have 10 employees here. And then you need to put what your name is, whoever's applying, what your title is, what your phone is, and this one's going to probably want a phone number and an email. I'll put this in here again so you can see what my email is, and address, and then you put a county, and I'm going to put Millard County. It doesn't bump you out if you put a county that isn't rural, but we just want to know you'll need to have a physical location that's in an enterprise zone. So that's important. Is the physical address of your business entity different from the mailing address above? So I'm going to say yes, because I could only do this if my physical address were in a county that has an enterprise zone area and is under 25,000 population. So this other address wouldn't work. And is the physical address of your property different than your mailing address? Yeah, it is. And so then actually I'm going to change that so I don't have to fill it in, but I'm just going to put no on that one. Okay. Okay, and then we're asking which year are you planning on starting? So ideally you'd start in 2017, but your only other option is 2018, and it reminds you that you need to finish this by December 31st, 2018 in order to apply for a tax credit certificate. And then it gives you an opportunity in 300 words to talk about your scope of work, what your project's all about. Would suggest that you use a Word document to type all this out and save it so that you can cut and paste it and put it in here. As you're going through, you can save your progress and resume later. I would definitely suggest that you do that, but I think to really help you out, just make sure that you've got these things that took a lot of time to prepare. Make sure that you've got them saved in another document. And on this one, you're telling about the economic impact. So we want to know how many jobs. It says right here, new jobs, property tax increase, other revenue for the community. You probably want to put how much you're going to invest, but that part can be down here. We have a budget, or on the next page. This wants to know if you currently own the property where your project's going to be located. That lets us know that you're probably going to be able to get started faster. Sometimes purchasing a property can take a while. We want to know if you already have financing arranged, and it just reminds you that we want shovel-ready projects. If you answered yes to the previous question, then you'd probably want to say Zions, bank, something like that. Just let us know that you've already got what you need for finance. Okay, and then on this one, I'm going to go through these. I'm just going to upload a test file, but we're asking for a budget for the project, and so you just click on this, and I have a test file, but you can create your budget. Again, create that outside of the application so you can just upload it. You want a timeline for the project. So this is just so that you can say, we'll start construction within a month. We should have this done by this date, have the people hired by this date. So this just helps you get ready with your project so that you know that you will be done by the 31st of 2018. This one, you say how many jobs you're going to create and what the wage level is. Again, that's competitive. You don't want to overestimate, because if you actually receive an allocation cap, you'll receive an allocation cap for what you put on the application. So on the one hand, it's competitive with other businesses, but at the same time, you don't want to overdo it. We also, if you do get an allocation cap, you wouldn't get more than 50%. So if your project's a $200,000 project, you could get up that $100,000 as an allocation cap. But if you're only spending $100,000 on your whole project, then you may not get more than $50,000, just as an example. And then we've given you 3 different files for maps, drawings, or other related material. There's only one that is required here, so I'll just go ahead and upload something. If you don't have something, just upload an empty file or something. I didn't realize that was a requirement there, but it is. Okay, and then this is important, and it's required as well, to upload a letter of support for your community investment project from your economic development director or elected official. So you'll need to upload that right there. We're almost done. Okay, so we're almost done. On this last page, you're just clicking yes if you agree to abide by the annual post-performance reporting, which we'll tell you about. If you do receive an allocation cap, we'll send you the information, so we'll put yes on that. And then also this part here, I confirm that all data submitted is accurate and may be tested for validity. So There you go. And then all I have to do now is submit and cross my fingers. And then you go to this page, and this page lets you confirm. So it lets you go back through and reread through everything that you put. So if you find that you've maybe answered something wrong or you uploaded the wrong file, something like that, down here we should be able to go backwards. So let's get through this. Sorry, I don't mean to make you dizzy. Okay, so you can go back and make a correction if you need to. You can print this page, which I would suggest that you do, but then if everything is the way you want it to look and you've printed the page, then you just confirm, and it lets you know that your application has been submitted. So make sure that you have that screen. Every once in a while it doesn't show up, so just make sure at least that you save your application just like you would any other important document. Okay, it looks like Zachariah has a question. Let me see. If possible, please describe 1 to 2 scenarios where a business would be better off going for one or the other or both. Okay, Zachariah, are we talking about doing the targeted business tax credit or the enterprise zone?
Can you hear me, Linda?
I can. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, so the first part of my question was just looking for the differences between rural fast track and the TBTC. I am aware of the difference in the maximum amount of money that you can get out of each of those, 50 versus 100,000, but it's not clear to me what all the other differences are.
Okay, some fairly significant differences. One of them is it's just for the smallest counties, so it's more selective as to which businesses in which counties can participate. Okay. The other one is you don't have to be in business for 2 years. You don't necessarily have to show a profit. So some of those requirements for the rural fast track are not in force on this one. Does that mean if you're losing money that you ought to invest in a project? No, but sometimes there are reasons you can be very successful and you can be growing very fast and having to reinvest in your company. So this is just another alternative if somebody is not able to apply for the rural fast track, and then it's just more money. Another exception, I'm trying to think, there could be counties that the rural fast track allows to do leisure and hospitality companies and others that it doesn't. So if you happen to be in a county that's under 25,000, but you don't qualify for that leisure and hospitality exemption for the rural fast track, then you might not be able to, then you might want to consider the targeted business tax credit. You don't have to get that 110% either. It's just, that's what the high quality jobs are defined as. But it may be that you'll have 20 jobs that don't meet the 110%. And so that will still be weighed as a job. But what they get paid is also a criteria that will be weighted. Does that help, Zachariah, or do you have other questions?
That's great.
Linda, does retail qualify in this, or just the leisure and hospitality?
I don't believe that retail, I think retail is specifically excluded. So let me go back, see if I can go back. I'm going to start another one because it tells us right at the beginning which things don't qualify. So let me go to the next page here. I think it's construction, retail, and public utilities that can't participate, Irene.
Okay.
So retail is off again. Let's see if it won't let me.
And is this paid post-performance? So once you're authorized, you do the project, and then it's paid post-performance?
Yes. So let me just kind of go through the process again. First, you apply. So you go through that quiz just to let you know if you should do the full application. If you answer yes to all those quiz questions, you go on to the full application. And then when you're through with the full application, GoEd will review all the applications that are in by the June 1, 5 p.m. deadline. And then we're working with somebody in-house that will put all the criteria into a spreadsheet and take the data from this online application and then rank. So we won't be subjectively ranking these applications. If they qualify, their answers will go into this spreadsheet and then it will rank them in order of the most capital investment, job numbers, and wage level, and other economic impact. And then when you get the allocation cap, then you'll know that you have money, that you can get started, and we'll just start dialogue going back and forth, and then you have a year and a half to complete the project, and then you apply to GoEd compliance to get a tax credit certificate, and then you send it in to the State Tax Commission. So hopefully that makes sense.
How much money do you have for this year?
$300,000. We're able to start at that $300,000 mark each year. With no more than $100,000 going to an individual business.
Are you thinking that you'll have twice as many applications as you will? I mean, I'm just curious, as we go out, if there is a couple of people we'd like to go out and visit with today or tomorrow about this. Obviously, the best projects win, but I mean, is there like 1 out of 10 that will get funded in your opinion, or is it a fairly good chance?
I think there's a fairly good chance because this program still isn't very well known. I would say in a generous case that we'll get 10 good applicants that are eligible, and 3 of them would get the $100,000, unless they're small project. But I would guess would give all the $300,000 away, and that people have a pretty good chance. So maybe a 1 in 3 or a 1 in 4 chance.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you for the questions. Okay, if nobody else has questions, I'm going to move my computer over. Yes?
There are other questions in the queue there, Linda.
Okay, I only saw Zacharias. Let's see. I'll go up to the top. Ryan. Yes, eligible counties must have a population of less than 25,000, and there aren't any exceptions to that rule. The statute doesn't say cities within those counties or anything like that. It just specifically says counties less than 25,000. And then the differences between the rural fast track. Okay. Oh, and Scott. Let's see. Oh, the second to the last question, agreeing to the post-performance requirements. Many of the businesses I visit are just a little leery in accepting government assistance due to strings attached. It may be good to include post-performance measures as a link to the question instead of asking them to agree to the terms and then send it to them later. Scott, are you still signed on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, this just means, I guess, tell me what you think the concerns are so I could help alleviate that.
Well, you mentioned when they have to agree to the post-performance measures that you would send those to them at a later point. Many businesses, like I said, are leery to accept government assistance because of those strings attached. So having a link that just bullet points those terms I can see that being a concern as I go to a business and they fill it out and they say, well, you know, what are these? And we can go back through the application and go through them, but summarizing them right there might be very helpful.
You know what, Scott, that's an excellent idea, because what they have to give us is their progress based on application commitments. Does that, if I were to add that to it so that they understand what that means? These are just progress reports at the end of the year, and I'll say simple progress reports based on application benchmarks such as hiring and investing.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay, I'll do that today. Thank you. That was an excellent suggestion. All of these are great suggestions. Okay. And Steve, can you make me Steve Lyon? Okay, I guess I'll have to talk to you offline. Steve, if no one else has questions, I'm gonna turn this over to James. And then, Steve, I'll try to call you on the phone if that's okay. Okay, I think we're good. James, are you ready?
I'm ready. Can you switch the screen to see my our documentation?
Let's see. James, I'm not, oh, there you are. Okay, and then you need to click your screen, this part up here.
Got it.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes. Go ahead.
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This morning we want to go through your request for grant proposals for the business expansion and retention grant funding. Feel free to ask questions as we go along the way. I'll try to pay attention to what's happening over here in the chat box as well. So we may have to come back to those questions at the end. In the meantime, let's take a quick look of, and go over the application. What I have done here, I know that you've all received these. If you haven't, please let me know. Give me an email and let me know that you need one of these applications. I've highlighted some things here in the application that are important information, I think, that highlight the importance of how we would like you to proceed through this application process, and highlighting some critical information as well. You will know that as in years past, there's only one BEAR contract awarded per county or tribe. You'll see in the first highlight there on the first page that all BEAR grant proposals are due June 1st, 2017. But I believe that I put in your email that the due date is June 2nd. So let's go with the June 2nd. And that gives you 9 business days essentially to complete this application and get it into me. So June 2nd, I'll be very aware of that deadline. Appreciate that. Another important point here is that COED is not aware of the available dollar amounts that come from the Industrial Assistance Fund yet. We won't know that until July 2017. And in this case, throughout this application, we asked you, as you consider your BEAR grant budgets, to enter percentages. And let me explain that to you. Let's assume, and you can make this assumption, I don't know the answer as of yet, no one does, but just let's assume that the funding that we receive, that you will receive per county or per contract is the same as what you had in fiscal year 2017. That was $17,000 per county or per contract. Just keep that in mind, and let's make the assumption that that's going to be the same this next year. I can't tell you if that's the same, if it will be the same, but let's just make that assumption. And when you're entering percentages into your contract and designating your categories, which we will get to here shortly, do so with that in mind, with that $17,000 contract in mind. Maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. As I scroll down this page here, I hope you all see it. It's page number 2. Essentially is how and what we need to see in your submission as you put in this application. Now I know that some of you are veterans at this. There are probably some very slight changes that you will recognize as we go through this from years past. Hopefully all of the changes are to help clarify some things and to help us also identify you in the contract. You'll see the cover page needs to include these items A through I. This is going to help us keep track of you, your contract, your identification, and keep contacts. We appreciate you putting that information in there, and most of that information will transfer directly into your contract. And it will probably also accompany any other information back and forth between our office and yours. Beyond the cover page, number 1, identify up to 5 targeted industries and reasons for selection. Now this is an exercise that we did last year as well. Each contract was asked to identify 5 targeted industry sectors and list those industries, identify their NAICS codes, and explain the reason why they are important industries to the economic development of your county. You'll see there that I have highlighted attachment A. So I'm going to scroll quickly down to attachment A. We'll come back to where we need to be here in a minute. But attachment A is going to give you a sampling or examples of targeted industries. All of these targeted industries on this list here are from the targeted industries that were listed on the various applications from the 25 applications of this past year. We'd appreciate you identifying them again. If you change them up, that's fine. If you will add their NAICS codes and do a little bit of research so that you clearly understand why you've chosen those sectors, please indicate that in your application. So, coming back to the top. Number 2, list your BEAR team members and the roles they will perform. This is important for us so that we can see that you have a team in place so that you can perform the responsibilities of BEAR visits and retention and startup surveys and any collaboration that you do as a team that will benefit economic development in your county. We ask you to please describe how your collaboration will support local businesses, how often you will meet, and where you will meet. Number 3 suggests we would like for you to tell us briefly what your experiences have been in fiscal year 2017, and if you've had some successes, we'd like to know. If you haven't, please let us know as well. And if you haven't had the successes that you hoped for, or in other words, maybe you're new to this and this is a new contract for you, it may not be applicable, but just to mark that as not applicable if that's the case. Number 4 is the scope of work. Excuse me, yes. Is there a question? All right. Scope of work, accepted outcomes and results. Discuss how bear funding will assist in accomplishing your goals. So we hope that you have a bear team in place and that you have in bear team collaboration formulated some goals that will help you be successful in the coming year. So we ask you in A through G to describe your economic development goals, define your purposes, and so forth. List the programs used to serve the business identified in your targeted industries. So this is kind of a layout of how you will accomplish some of your goals. Do I have a question? Okay, we'll keep going. In section number 5, we're going to address how we measure our performance and quarterly reporting. I'll just read through this highlighted portion. This request for proposal includes rules for reimbursement for bear funds and legal definitions and terms. Please include in your appendix the checkbox list of legal definitions and terms and rules for reimbursement for bear funds, bear funds as an indication that you've read and understand them. Let me explain that so that it's pretty clear here. What I've asked you to do in your application is, and I will scroll down to these two documents, to go through this document called Rules and Reimbursements, and you'll see some instruction there, to read through each one of these, check the box that is next to it, indicating that you have read it, and as you get to the end of the document, we would appreciate your initials there that indicate that you have read this document and that you understand these terms. There have been so many questions about what things mean, how we define things, and what the rules are. We hope that this will be helpful to you so that you can say, okay, I clearly understand what the rule for reimbursement in this case is, whatever the category might be. The second document is the same way. Legal terms and definitions. These are the things that you will find in your contract and you have had in past contracts. But there's still some things that were unclear for a lot of folks. And so we've asked you, again, to go through this as a checkbox form, read them through, check the boxes, sign the document with initials at the bottom to indicate that you understand what you've got coming in your contract. Are there any questions with regard to those two things? So these two documents, check boxes with initials, come back in your application to us. All right, if there's no questions, we'll go on to section 6, supporting documentation. These are the documents that help us know that you have support of your community. So we can say the letters of support from your sponsoring entity, that would be your county or the contract holder or both. Letters of approval and support from the counties, cities, and or tribes within the proposed region that your BEAR program will cover. In other words, we would like a letter of support from the legislative body or the governing body of those entities. So that number one, we know that you have their support. Number two, they are aware of the work that you're doing truly on their behalf in their region. Letters of commitment from your BEAR team. Now we've addressed the idea that we want to formulate the BEAR teams, identify who they are, what organizations they come from, and what their roles are going to be. We would like to see, as we have in years past, a letter of commitment from those BEAR team members, including articulation of their roles as BEAR team members. And then D is what we had just gone over with regard to the checkbox lists of legal definitions and terms and rules for reimbursement. At this juncture, I'll go over the their budget. Again, as we mentioned at the very beginning, we're going to ask you to enter into these boxes here. You'll see proposed bear fund budget. Please enter into these boxes percentage, assuming that you're going to receive somewhere in the vicinity of that $17,000. How much, in other words, you would say, of the potential budget I have fits within category 1, 2, or 3 based on the goals that we want to achieve and that we've set as a BEAR team. So let me explain that the best I can here, and please interject any kind of questions that you might have. This is slightly different than what you've seen in contracts past. I've separated these things into categories. You'll see category 1, BEAR initiative, category 2, economic and business development, category 3, professional training and BEAR team development. So, and I have these explained at the very bottom. If you want definitions for these categories, they are in the document. I'll scroll down quickly. Sorry to make this fly by you so quickly. But here we go. In attachment B, you have definitions and explanations of what these funds categories mean. I might suggest that the BEAR initiative really is the core purpose and intention of a BEAR program. And essentially what it is to be outreach, hitting the ground, visiting the businesses, asking them how they're doing and what their needs are in the forms of startup or retention surveys, working as a team to find out what the resources they could use are and directing them to them through referrals. So that's category 1. Category 2 is really, in some ways, what you discover in category 1 with your BEAR visits will end up being referrals to or functions of category 2. In other words, referrals to resources for those businesses, consultation, specialized training, workforce development, and so forth. Category 2 also has within it some things that some of you folks will recognize as important to your economic development planning in your community. Some of you have taken advantage of certain programs such as ASAP, and some of the BEAR funds have gone to cover expenses incurred in those kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go back up to this section here. I hope you can hear me. I'm getting a message that I'm not sure. Someone can't. Okay, so having given you an explanation with regard to where you would like to put your funds, we'd ask you to fill this out in percentages. Again, if you've got $17,000 and you think 50% belongs in BEAR visits, put 50% in here. If 40% belongs down here in these categories below, feel free to fill those in. And that's how that will go. And just assume that somewhere in here in this category 3, you'll likely have $500 to $1,000 there for your personal professional development.
So James, if we wanted to simplify the administration of this, we just can see that that maybe we, of course, want to do it accurately, give you the information you need, but we wanted to simplify it. Would it make a difference if we only put money in one category? Maybe that's consulting, maybe it's economic gardening, maybe it's training, but we just, you know, just for the sake of simplifying the process. One of the challenges, we do have a BEAR team, but they won't use executive polls. They have enough to deal with in their own offices. They, with software, they will not use executive polls. So if we make referrals, would we have to go back in and do the matrix on that referral? For example, if we refer someone to our Small Business Development Center and he spends 2 hours with them, again, if he's not using executive polls, do we need to go back in and do those matrix? Because again, that's another level of administration. If there's 3 or 4 referrals per visit, that could end up being quite time consuming. I'm just kind of curious. We're just trying to find a way to simplify the administration so that it doesn't cost us $17,000 to administer a $17,000 grant.
Yeah, I understand that completely. And let me address that concern. Many of you are aware that we had some research done on behalf of this program by the Kim Gardner Institute at the U of U. And clearly, in that report that we got back, the biggest problem we have with this BEAR program is executive polls. We don't have a fix for that yet, although we are doing research into other CRMs and reporting systems. So what we've decided to do is to proceed with what we have this year while we are researching other methods. So all I can do is apologize that as you go forward, we will need you to enter what you have in executive polls. Now, let me clarify something about executive polls as well. Executive polls is a customer relationship management system. And I think what we've really truly discovered is that it should be a tool for you to use to your benefit. What it is, unfortunately, is a tool we require that you do in your reporting. You might say, and I know that in some cases, some of you have even got binders, and you keep your information in those binders, and essentially, executive polls ought to be that, but it is not. So we have to go and keep that system in place so that we can do our quarterly reporting with regard to, let me scroll down, to the BEAR initiative category, because you will want to and still need to be required to do your retention and startup reporting and surveys and record them there, and we will still require a GoEd report that comes out of executive polls. What you do, Irene, beyond that, in other words, if you've made a referral to SBDC, ideally it would be great if SBDC would make comments in the profile of each of those businesses so that we can see that there is progress in them. But with regard to your quarterly reporting, all we're really going to be able to see and prove is that you've actually done your BEAR visit and that you've made a referral. We wish that it was a system that you could then continue and communicate through to the SBDC or the VRC or any other organization that you've referred them to. Unfortunately, it's not that kind of a tool, at least that people will, and we recognize its challenges, that people will want to use. So we are investigating our options there. In the meantime, as you hit the first and second quarter of this next year, we'll still request that you enter your visit information your surveys and so forth in executive polls so that we can see that it's done. Does that help, Irene?
It does help, because at least we know that if we have the survey in, but our BEAR partners are not willing to do the matrix, then at least we still have the survey in there, and it sounds like that would be sufficient for the visit.
Yes, for your quarterly report to make your claim on your BEAR visit per $100 per visit or whatever the case might be in the future. Yes, that's correct. And there are a lot of things that honestly I think we'll be going through with a fine-tooth comb over the next 6 months to make adjustments to this program that is hopefully less difficult in administration. Truly, that is the biggest problem. You've got it nailed on the head.
So it looks like we're just about ready to wrap up. I think the system's going to shut us off in 1 minute. There are some other comments on the chat. Paul, I haven't had a chance to respond to that. There was a request from Nick to maybe get some training provided. And this issue of double reporting, I think those are all issues that we've been looking at. And we do want to simplify this. That is one of the major goals for this year. So be patient with us as we move forward. James has put a lot of work into this, but simplification for the user end is our goal this year. James, do you have any other closing remarks before we're cut off?
Thank you, and please send me your email questions. I will be happy to respond to them best I can, or give me a phone call, 801-538-8687.
Hey, maybe I'll put that up there.
801-538-8687.
8307. Okay, I just put it on.
Yep.
538-8687, and we're going to stop the recording, but James's number will be there if you need to go back for reference. Thanks, everyone.